This is Steve Adubato. This, more importantly, is the remote edition of Lessons in Leadership. We recently surpassed my colleague Mary Gamba and I, who you see on camera, the co-host and executive producer. By the way, if people want to know what executive producer means, it means leader in charge.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Just keep going, though. You could keep going with the titles. It makes me feel good.
Oh, by the way, before you're going further, Mary, how many titles conservatively do you think you've had over the 20 years we've worked together? How many different titles?
Probably about 35.
The head of business operations, chief of
Mm-hmm.
staff,
Yep.
chief of
Development officer, chief fundraiser, you
chief
name it. Head of marketing and communications.
dealing with the schedule. It just goes on forever.
I'm waiting for president and CEO. That's going to be the next one.
Why don't you just let me decide when I'm ready to step aside? Then you could take on all the responsibilities. You have most of them now. By the way, before you go any further, Mary, let's let everyone know. I was just being handed this by the way, Nick, want to make a quick. This is Nick Adubato, who is working with Frank and Elvin, who are doing on the production side, making it happen. Nick is our 17-year-old who is dealing with all technical issues. It takes a village, does it not?
It sure does.
Yes. Thank you very much, Nick. So, Mary, real quick, let's let everyone know how they can find us on our website, and then also let everyone know not more importantly, but who makes this program possible.
Sure thing. You can find us on the web at stand-deliver.com. We have a ton of great articles up there, all free of charge, on everything leadership, communication, running meetings, and a huge shout out and thank you to our funders of this program. We've got Prager Metis, we have Valley Bank, Gibbons PC Law Firm, the International Union of Operating Engineers, and New Jersey Resources.
Real quick, speaking of leadership, I'm a big Yankee fan. Dying to see baseball come back, even if we can't be in the stands. One of the greatest leaders, not just one of the greatest players, greatest shortstops, greatest Yankees, one of the greatest leaders, Derek Jeter. Can you see my Derek Jeter?
Yeah, you could see it very, very clearly. And he is one of those athletes that truly, years ago, I used to say to my husband, I said, there's got to be something in that closet that something's going to come out that he did something wrong. He just seems too perfect. And he is such a great role model for all types of athletes, not just baseball players.
You know, it's interesting you say that. I'm not going to get off on a whole sports thing right now, but along with a lot of other people, I'm watching the ESPN series. This will be dated or hopefully already finished by then. But The Last Dance, which is an ESPN 10-part series on the Chicago Bulls, primarily Michael Jordan and his teammates in the 1998 season when they were going for their 6th championship. Why is it relevant? In it, Michael Jordan says, look, I want to be the greatest basketball player playing on the greatest team. Don't make me your role model. He loved to gamble. He enjoyed himself in certain ways, and he got criticized for not speaking out about certain political issues involving race by lots of folks. And he said, hold on one second. I want to be the greatest basketball player. I'm focusing on, I remember he said in the documentary on ESPN, on my craft. And I keep struggling with the question, if you're a leader on your team in sports, do you have a responsibility to speak out on issues? Are you supposed to be a role model for all kinds of kids? Or is it you're smoking your cigar, you're playing golf, you're gambling, you're playing cards? Nothing wrong with that. But I remember Michael Jordan saying, I'm not supposed to be the role model. Real quick, before we go to Barry Ostrowski, the president and CEO of RWJBarnabas Health, are we all supposed to be role models, Mary, or just good at what we do?
You especially need to be a role model if you are out front in any capacity, whether you're a musician, if you are even a driver in NASCAR, if you are a television host, regardless of what it is, especially athletes. So many of our young kids look up to athletes. Once you put yourself out there and you're in the spotlight, you're an actor, whatever it is, you need to be a positive role model. And sure, you could do what you want to do behind the scenes, but what you put out there publicly needs to be your best front.
Mary, do this setup for Barry Ostrowski, the president and CEO of RWJBarnabas Health. He's joined us many times, and he's been a leader. He's a lawyer by background, but has been a leader for a long time.
Yeah, he leads one of the largest health systems in the state. And as many CEOs and presidents are dealing with the challenge of what to tell employees and how to deal with these challenging times, one of the things that Barry really will point to in this interview is how the best and true leaders cannot worry about being liked. They need to worry about making the best decisions for their team and then not react emotionally when things don't go the way that they thought it would go.
And by the way, because Barry is the president and CEO of a large healthcare system, I want to remind people that if you go on our website on stand-deliver.com and download past editions, we're over 100 editions of Lessons in Leadership. We've gone out of our way to interview many of the people we deal with in the world of healthcare and hospitals. Bob Garrettson, one of them from Hackensack Meridian Health. I believe Mike Marin up at Holy Name.
Yep.
A whole range of other leaders, Brian Granulati over Atlantic. Why am I saying this? Because, and also we're going to do Sharif Elnahal over at University Hospital. And the reason this is so relevant is because when you think about leadership, it seems to me that those who are leading hospitals and hospital systems, in this case, Barry Ostrowski, the challenges they face, the issues they are dealing with, not just from a fiscal and economic point of view, how they stay in business, but think about the frontline leaders, the physicians, the nurses, the attendants. Talk about courageous. Talk about acknowledging and recognizing and protecting those people. It's an extraordinarily challenging job. So in this edition of Lessons in Leadership, we take a look at an interview that I did with Barry Ostrowski that we'll talk about right after this. This is that one-on-one interview. Go ahead.
Steve Adubato here. Listen, we've been doing this series as part of Lessons in Leadership, not just the name of a book that I happen to write, but way more importantly, a series that I've been doing with my co-host, Mary Gamba. And we're focusing on leading in a pandemic. Yes, we are taping this in April. It'll be relevant in May, June, July, and beyond, because there's always a crisis, hopefully not this horrible, but we're joined by one of the leaders that is dealing with very directly. He and I talk leadership all the time. He's Barry Ostrowski, the president and chief executive officer, RWJ Barnabas Health. Barry, let's just jump right into it. Biggest leadership lesson you've learned so far, and there'll be others, in the middle of, if you will, April. The biggest leadership lesson you learned in this pandemic is what?
Make decisions. Thank you, Steve. It's great to be with you. You know, you can analyze and overanalyze so many aspects of any crisis, but because it's a crisis, things are happening in real time that affect real people. Now, in a pandemic like this, it affects literally everyone. And people look to the leader to make the decision. You gather as much information as quickly as you possibly can, but you don't have time to spend on analytics. You don't have time to debate. And while business judgment can always be less than perfect, you need to make decisions. And so I think in my case, I don't mind making decisions. I think all leaders believe they have the ability to do so. So people look to the head of the table and say, now what? And if you are ambivalent about an answer or equivocal, people lose trust in you and themselves, to be honest with you. So number one, you have to make a decision. Number two, I think you have to go out of your way to acknowledge and recognize the people who are actually responding. In our case, the heroism of the frontline caregivers is really beyond description. And they and the people that support them need to know that you are there as a leader and you're encouraging other leaders to support them. I think if you can make decisions and honor the commitments that others are making in a crisis like this, I think you'll be on your way, as you write in your book, to leading in circumstances for which there is no playbook.
Yeah, I mean, where would one look? Often they say the generals fight the war they're fighting based on the last war, but no war is the same. And if we're going to say this is a war, an ongoing war, there is nothing like this. But what I'm curious about is this, Barry. You know, you've never struck me as someone who worries about being, I'm going to say this the right way. When you make those decisions, you don't think a lot about how popular you're going to be, do you?
Can't. You just can't do that.
Go to that, because I'm sitting there realizing we've laid some people off. Nothing we want to do. You've got to run a fiscally, you got to stay in business. And sometimes we make decisions as leaders that clearly make people not just uncomfortable, it affects their lives and scares other people. Why is it that we can't be worried about people, quote, liking us when we do that as leaders?
Well, look, I think you have to be careful about emotional decision making. Emotional maturity is the ability, in my view, to have empathy and be compassionate, but to make decisions on more objective criteria than the emotion of the situation. If you led exclusively by emotion, you could never make a hard decision, because hard decisions do, unfortunately, displace people or have ill effects on a number of folks for whom you wouldn't want to have such ill effects.
Not at all.
So I believe if you have the empathy and you have compassion and you do everything you can to protect as many people as you can, if you believe in the objective of the organization, and I think this is critical, Steve, we believe in our mission. And so in making every decision, whether it's during a more peaceful time or in a crisis or pandemic, every decision we make has to be connected to our ability to pursue the mission of the organization. And if I can't connect those dots, then I'm not making the right decision. And sometimes the right decision and the ability to connect the dots, unfortunately, mean certain people are going to be hurt or disadvantaged in some form or fashion. And if I emotionally respond to that, I compromise on the ability of the organization to attain the mission, and that's not acceptable.
Last question, Barry. You're also a board member of NJTV, New Jersey Public Broadcasting, or NJTV, if you will, since we've been in operation since 2011, and you're one of the original board members of public media in New Jersey. But here's the question: innovation and leadership. NJTV, as we're doing this program, has created something called Learning Live, which is they actually have teachers. In this pandemic, as we're doing this, and we hope kids do go back to school sometime soon, but we don't know that's going to be the case. But NJTV approached educators, and they're collaborating with others to have instructional learning on television. Innovation, the need to innovate, it's not an option, is it? It is a must, correct?
It is a must. I couldn't be prouder than to be a board member of that organization. And organizations that innovate, organizations that help to respond to challenges like this in new and creative ways, are organizations that frankly allow themselves to be successful for longer duration. I think taking stock of what you can do and then using those skills and resources in a way that you may not have chosen to do that in the past, but now you're doing it because of the challenges, that defines an organization that is truly committed to making society better, or certainly attaining an objective that will make society better. I think NJTV does that with high credibility and acceptance, and I think it's the way all organizations ought to operate. But they immediately stepped into this unfortunate gap, and I think they are enabling school children to learn. And frankly, when I was in school, the idea of not having to go to school for a long time would have sounded great. But I think, there's a lot of boredom that happens. And so children, I'm told, we don't have any school-age children, are really excited about at least doing something. And in this case, it's education.
Barry Ostrowski, who is the leader of one of the most significant, important healthcare systems, not just in the state, but in the nation, RWJ Barnabas Health, in cooperation with the folks at Rutgers. You and I will continue talking leadership. And Barry, hopefully next time it's face-to-face, the way we like it the most, but we can't always, we just have to deal with the deck, or excuse me, the cards that were dealt, and make the best of it. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you, Steve. Be well and safe.
All best to you. We'll be right back right after this.
This is Mary Gamba. If you want more leadership tips and tools, log on to stand-deliver.com. That's stand-deliver.com.
This edition of Lessons in Leadership is brought to you by Gibbons PC, Prager Metis, Valley Bank, New Jersey Resources, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825. Again, on Lessons in Leadership, we try to talk to leaders on the front lines, those who are dealing with the most, difficult issues. Mary, in this interview that we did, I did with Barry Ostrowski, he talked specifically about making the tough decisions and not, let's be candid. You and I talked about not the issue of popularity, which Barry talks about, but being recognized. You said you like to be recognized, but you don't need to be recognized. I want to be popular. Mary, I'm sorry, but I need to be popular. It's not working for me, is it?
Oh, you're doing just fine, Steve.
No, but in all seriousness, for a leader, you may want to be popular,
Sure.
as Barry said, but you actually can't have that be a need, because if it's a need to be popular, in the age of COVID-19, how the heck are you going to make the incredibly difficult, painful decisions that may include job cutbacks, otherwise known as layoffs, furloughs, pay cuts, budget cuts, really tough decisions? How can you do that if you really need to be popular?
Yeah, you could not have that desire override common sense and the decisions that you're making, because oftentimes as a leader, especially in COVID-19, the decisions that you're making are not going to make a lot of people happy, but they are necessary.
In that regard, we talk about governors, Governor Murphy in New Jersey, Governor Cuomo in New York, President Trump leading our nation. Our prayers and thoughts are with all of those leaders, the mayors, the county executives, all those people. But I'm going to ask you, Mary, if a leader in government, it's interesting. I'm not going to get into a political or philosophical discussion, but if the people, meaning your customers, your consumers, your stakeholders, in government leadership, if the people want you to reopen and have this open, that open, and stop the restrictions on certain level, but the leader, he or she truly believes, by talking to healthcare experts and others, that we need to be slower about that, we need to be more cautious, whatever it is a leader's job to do what most of the people who are their constituents, being in a company, a hospital, a school, whatever it is, a church, what he or she thinks their constituents want, or what he or she thinks is the right thing to do?
Oh, that's a simple answer. It has to be the thing that is the right thing to do, taking in all of the information that you have at that point, which may not be every single piece, but you need to use your judgment. You need to use any type of history and make those right decisions. But the other thing that I really liked that he talked about was innovation, because if you reframe it as a leader as, okay, these are tough decisions that we're making, but we're going to innovate. We're going to find new ways of doing things that we traditionally have done many different ways. And then we will come out of this together.
Yeah, real quick, speaking about innovation, we had historically been in the studios at NJTV, the great public television station in New Jersey. Check it out every night, NJTV News. And by the way, shout out, talking about great leaders, Mary Alice Williams, who recently stepped down as the anchor of that broadcast, one of the great leaders, the icons in the broadcast industry. She's given so much to our industry. She's taught and mentored so many people, not just at NJTV and in public broadcasting, but before that, she was one of the first anchors over at CNN. I just wanted to say that because leaders need to be recognized. But check out NJTV News. But we do our program out of that studio, or out of the WNET, the PBS affiliate in New York, their studio out of Lincoln Center. We had to innovate, Mary, because those studios were not accessible to us. And that's what we're doing here, along with so many others. Is that what innovation looks like?
That's exactly what innovation looks like. It's not really knowing in a moment that something is going to change. We saw it coming. We saw that there were shutdowns going on, but the next thing you know, it's okay. We need to figure out a new way to get our content on the air. That's what we are. We're a television production company. Well, we can't get to the studio. So what are you going to do? You're going to do your research. You're going to reach out to the key people that you have relationships with, and just get all the information and find new ways of doing things. And frankly, some of the things that we're doing right now are more efficient, more effective than ever. And it's just being creative.
Real quick on this before we go to the second clip with Tim Sullivan, who's the CEO of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. There's an expression that I want us to think about. Never let perfection be the enemy of the good. You ever hear me say that, Mary?
I've actually never heard you say
Not
that.
mine.
Well,
Not
I didn't say it was yours, but I've never heard you say that. We've been together 20 years and I've never heard that.
Perfection should not be the enemy of the good. Simply put, we are making mistakes. This isn't perfect. We're getting better. We'll keep getting better. We'll make more mistakes. I will make mistakes as a leader in decisions I make about the organization. Mary will occasionally make mistakes in running things on a day-to-day basis. You will make mistakes. But if your goal is to be perfect, one of our clients said recently, leading in the age of COVID-19 is like building a plane
As you're flying it. We almost bring that up every single day.
and if you're building a plane as you fly it or flying it as you're building it all in real time, you're going to make mistakes. So if you think you're going to get all the information and make a perfect decision, not only aren't you going to do that, but you may have that be the enemy of a good outcome, a positive outcome that's not perfect. So it's an important thing to remember. Mary, let's set up this clip with Tim Sullivan, who is the CEO of the Economic Development Authority. And by the way, they're playing a key role in the economic livelihood and health of the state of New Jersey. Let's set it up real quick.
Yeah, so Tim Sullivan, he's the CEO of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Tim is really going to talk about the importance of having a schedule, having a routine, and then just really when you're leading in a pandemic, we've talked about it so much, the importance of candor. So we can go to Tim.
Yeah, Tim Sullivan, got to talk to him. Important words, all about leadership.
We continue our series as part of Lessons in Leadership Leading in a Pandemic by talking to leaders of every stripe in all kinds of industries, in government and not-for-profits, university world, and the corporate world. And we talk to, right now, our good friend Tim Sullivan, who is the CEO of New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Good to talk to you, Tim.
Hey, Steve, good to be with you. Wish we could be together in person.
And we will one day soon. And again, this is part of leading in a pandemic. Question, the most important lesson you've learned about leading in the current pandemic we are in is?
Honesty and candor. I was sitting next to the governor the other day at his daily press briefing, and he said something really important. He said, this is a war. You don't win a war by panicking. You don't win a war with business as usual. You got to be honest and direct about the challenges we face. I think that's an incredibly important point.
But here's the other thing. Honesty and candor, dealing with fear. The EDA, the Economic Development Authority, is dealing with small businesses all over the state. You're being overrun as we do this program by people looking for help. What advice do you have from a leadership point of view? I mean, we lead a not-for-profit. We've talked before. You're one of our longtime partners. But here's the question. How does a leader, he or she, hide the fear and insecurity he or she feels about the future from their people when they're trying to show confidence and they're not 100% confident themselves?
Yeah, there's a bit of fake it till you make it on some of that stuff.
That's right.
You've got to get up every day, and even if you're not going to the office, comb your hair and shave and hit it and get to work. I think people, the colleagues that I work with at the EDA and the companies that we work with every day, even more so now, they want to feel like they've got a role to play and a mission as part of responding to the crisis. So it's motivating to me and I know all my colleagues and teammates that we're trying to do something to help here and not just being passersby or witnesses to what's going on here, but trying to help. And I think that's motivating for people. Certainly
a huge part. I'm sorry for interrupting, Tim. That's part of the technology as well, as not knowing exactly when someone's going to finish. You don't read the body language the same way. I'm a student of communication, as you well know, and I'm a big fan of being face to face. Well, when it comes to leadership, being a really great communicator is not just an option, it's a necessity. How has your communication changed with your own staff? I know you're in different locations to begin with, but now you're in more locations because people are remote as we're doing this, taping this conversation. How much harder is it for you to communicate with your team remotely?
We've had to do it differently, but one of the important principles I read, if it was a tweet or something from some, leadership piece of advice, could have been from you, if I remember.
If it was good, it was from me. I'm sorry.
I'm sure it was you, Steve. It was about setting a pattern. So even before we were under the work from home orders, we started doing a daily meeting and a daily call of our senior team, just to go through all the coronavirus stuff, so we were focused, not adding it onto the other meetings, not making it one of 7 agenda items, but the only item on the agenda. And we've kept that up every day. To every day, including weekends, through the first couple of weeks of this, and I expect we will, because you've got to have regularity to it. You can't, email's great, texts are great, but you can't convey the same as when you're all together, at least via voice and camera and in person. So having that pattern, getting into that repetition is really important for us.
Well, one more quick follow-up. Very often in a crisis, whether it's the pandemic we're talking about now, or there'll always be a crisis down the road, hopefully nothing as horrific as this, but very often team members look to the leader. He or she will tell us what to do. I've often said, yeah, and sometimes I dictate too much as a leader, but often we look to team members for ideas, how they would handle a situation, bringing up issues we may not think of as the person at the top of the organization, even though there are a whole range of other leaders. Here's the question. How do you encourage and engage team members to speak up and share their ideas when you need them now more than ever?
I take my cues from the governor on this, who's been doing, asking all of us, peppering us with lots of questions and asking us for feedback on a million different topics all along the way here, as he always does, but with a bit more pace and urgency in this crisis. You've got to be proactive at asking your team, hey, first of all, how you doing? Everybody good at home? How's everything good? Everything in your life as settled as it can be in this terrible period. And then making sure to say, hey, are we doing it right from your perspective? And you got to be willing to get that honest feedback to say, hey, is this, we had to make a decision, not sure it was the right one. You got to make a bunch of decisions. What do you think? And it's time to make some decisions. Can you make sure your input's in the till?
Last question. You and I have talked offline in meetings. We joke a lot that we've both been trained in Catholic school, Catholic high school. Christian Brothers were a big part of our lives. I know this sounds like a stretch to some who may not appreciate or understand what that background is, even though Tim and I did not graduate together in the same year. Hard to believe, I know. Tim, serious question. What you learned in those schools about discipline, about rigor, about keeping yourself together and having a routine. Boy, do we have routines. That's why I'm wearing a tie when I probably shouldn't, because we wore them so often in school. The question is this: is that part of your leadership style today?
Well, I don't know if I'm as regimented as the nuns and priests and brothers who helped educate me as a kid, but certainly that does. I think we all feel a pretty important desire for order and regularity now, and that certainly goes far back into my childhood. And so, yeah, I think having some order and some discipline is helpful right now, and I'd like to think I picked up some of that along the way from the many wonderful educators, both with collars and habits and lay teachers as well, all along the way.
What's so interesting is there's rigor and there's discipline and there's regularity, and there's also being agile and nimble and flexible, which is always important. Hey, Tim, I want to thank you for joining us and talking about leading in a pandemic. This conversation will be relevant any time it airs because the tips and tools you offered are just that valuable. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Steve. Great to be with you, and stay well.
And that was and is Tim Sullivan from the Economic Development Authority. Mary, real quick, he talked about each player on the team having to be a part of the mission during the pandemic. Talk about it.
So important, whether you're looking at any of your newer staff members, and I say lower, just lower level, whether you're talking high level CFOs, everybody has to play a role, and all of those roles are critical. And as Tim said, you need to communicate to those people, all right, here's your role, here's why you're doing it, and here's why it matters to the future of the organization.
And if they don't feel a part of it and you just say, listen, I'll make the decisions, you wait till I decide and then you execute, doesn't work, does it?
No, it doesn't. You're going to get employees then that are disengaged, that really don't buy into your mission and your value. And simply put, they're just not going to care about the future of the organization. And in these really challenging times, that's not acceptable.
By the way, folks who care about us happens to be not just people watching and listening, but also folks who help underwrite and sponsor the program. Real quick before we go, Mary.
Sure. We've got Prager Metis, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825, New Jersey Resources, Valley Bank, and Gibbons PC.
Terrific stuff. By the way, all kinds of information going on, information sharing. So I want to thank Elvin and Frank, who helped make everything possible on the production, the direction, and the audio end, and also our son, Nick. We don't all have a son named Nick. I do. He's in the other room. He's on the technical side here. This is Steve Adubato. Way more importantly, that is the executive producer and co-host of this program, Mary Gamba. Mary, go ahead, say goodbye to everyone.
Goodbye, everyone. And please, be safe and stay healthy, and we'll see you next time.
You got it. See you then.
This is Mary Gamba. If you want more leadership tips and tools, log on to stand-deliver.com. That's stand-deliver.com.
This edition of Lessons in Leadership is brought to you by Gibbons PC, Prager Metis, Valley Bank, New Jersey Resources, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825.
I could feel my lungs fill with oxygen, and I got my life back.
The Sharing Network means to me hope, life, and everything.
The sharing network was a lifeline to me when I really needed it.
We are an organ procurement organization.
The core purpose of the New Jersey Sharing Network is to save and enhance lives.
To honor those who gave.
Pay tribute to those who received.
Offer hope to those who continue to wait.
And remember the lives lost while waiting.
For the gift of life.